What's going on, everyone? So yesterday, in a shocking move, the Milwaukee Bucks ended up firing Mike Budenholzer, which was a shock to me, and I'm sure it was to many other people. Now, Milwaukee, they were the number one overall seed. They have the best player on the planet. They just won an NBA championship in 2021. Literally 2 seasons ago, they won an NBA championship. And if Chris Middleton didn't get hurt, they very likely could have won back-to-back. I believe that they would have beaten the Boston Celtics, and I think they matched up way better to the Warriors than the Celtics did. And then this year, yes, they underachieved and underperformed, but also Giannis missed half those games, where I do believe if he was fully healthy, they probably win that series. Yes, Budenholzer kind of, seemed to have some questionable things in that series, right? Primarily the one that stands out is, the lack of timeout. But still, I mean, this is a championship level coach, and you're seeing all of these organizations just move off of coaches super quickly. And it's really a cause of concern. Now, I did a full deep dive breakdown on Budenholzer over on my As It Stands sports. Go check that out if you're curious. But I'll even link it down in the description of this video. But the reason I want to talk about this and bring it up is because what if the Lakers extended a hand to Budenholzer and said, hey, we can't make you the head coach, but what if you came and be our lead assistant? And you might be thinking, why would he do that? Well, there's a couple reasons. One, his relationship with Darvin Ham. Darvin Ham was his lead assistant in Milwaukee, and they have a great relationship. I also think that he could really help Darvin Ham in many ways, right? Him being a rookie head coach. I think Darvin Ham has done a splendid job so far. Has he been perfect? Absolutely not. Has he had his moments? Absolutely. But I think for the most part, he's done about as good a job as anybody can in regards to coaching this team. Just think of all the obstacles this guy has had to deal with this year, and to be in the position that we're in, tied 1-1, heading to Los Angeles in the second round of the playoffs after starting 2-10, having a completely different roster. I mean, the list goes on and on and on, right? And he's really done a nice job getting players to buy in, having a top defense and offense. Everything that has happened with the Lakers doesn't happen if you don't have good coaching. And I think Mike Budenholzer is a good coach. And I think in the right situation, he could thrive still. Again, he's a championship winning head coach. He's a guy that's been there, that understands it, that has a long list of just, the pedigree of what you want from a head coach. And very likely he could want a head coaching job. He may go somewhere, but there's not a lot of great desirable places. Again, his relationship with Darvin Ham. Secondly, did any part of the reason have to do with the unfortunate passing of his brother? I mean, that's a real question, right? He's going to take time away. He's going to want to do that, and that's rightfully so. And he should take as much time as he needs. But does he want to come back and deal with all the chaos that is being a head coach, right? When he's going through all this stuff, but he still needs a job. He still needs to work. He still needs to, maintain his lifestyle. And an assistant coach position might not be a bad idea for at least a year or two, right? You take an assistant job, lead assistant job under Darvin Ham until an opportunity opens up that you go, hey, that's a place that I'd like to coach, right? Or until you feel you're in a position of hey, I'm good now. Let's go do this. And look, I'm just suggesting. I don't know if that's really a thing. I mean, everyone grieves and deals and handles things differently, right? He might be totally okay. And, hey, the next job, I'm taking it. Let's go, right? I want to focus on work. Some people even, that's how they deal with grief, right? They have that moment, and then it's okay, well, let me just take my mind off it. Let me distract myself, right? And maybe that's the scenario that he's going to go. But I just think that if you have an opportunity to bring on a guy like Budenholzer, I think you do it. I really do. I I said the same thing about Nick Nurse, right? Darvin Ham, when he was hired, the idea originally was to get an assistant head, like an assistant lead coach, but one that was a head coach that had experience, right? And like, even think of like the bubble year. We had just we had a great coaching staff with tons of experience. And I think that would be nice to have next year for just the ins and outs. And it's just also good. It would be good for Darvin Ham to have a guy that he truly respects, somebody that was a mentor to him, somebody that he would actually listen to. Because here's the thing, it's always good to surround yourself with people that are as knowledgeable, better. Like you hear a lot of even like business people, right? They want to surround themselves with people that are, I'm not good at this. Let me find somebody that's great at it. Right? And you listen to that person. Or sometimes you just get sort of bullheaded and stuck in your ways, right? You get kind of like, no, like I think we should do things this way. And sometimes you have that person next to you that says like, hey, I don't think we should do that. I don't think that that's a good idea. And you're just like, you might not say it, but you're kind of thinking like, hey man, stay in your lane. Like, I'm the head coach. What I say goes. Great suggestion. I appreciate it, but this is what we're going to do, right? But then you have that person that you respect. Maybe it's your father, your mother, your best friend, your brother, whomever, a mentor, a boss, whatever. You have somebody that when they tell you something, you listen to it differently, right? We all have that person in our lives where like anybody could say something to us and we're just like, yeah, cool, bro, thanks. But like if that person says it to us, you're like, I didn't really see it that way, right? And it's like, this person just said the same thing, but you're not really listening to them, right? And I think that that's very valuable for a coach because even next year, whether like let's say everything goes perfect this year. Say Darvin Ham wins the NBA championship. Lakers, we're celebrating. We got the parade. We pop bottles. Great. Maybe we have a great offseason. Maybe, get a couple acquisitions that really kind of keep us in that contention status, right? And it's just like, all right, cool. Let's do this. Let's go. He's still going to be in year 2. And yes, he won a championship in his first year. You can always get better. You can always be better. And there are things that Budenholzer has experience in, that he's seen, that he's dealt with, that could just be valuable. That could be just a nice sort of thing to deal with. And he would immediately have an understanding of the offense, right? And have an understanding of what Darvin Ham is trying to put together, right? Because you don't need to try to give him a crash course and have him understand and, go through all the training and details and stuff. I just think that this is somebody that could come in, immediately know what is going on, how to execute, have an understanding of the approach, maybe can bring a different outlook and perspective and fix some stuff up, because Darvin Ham is basically taking a page directly out of Budenholzer's book, and Budenholzer's the one that wrote the book. So, if you could get the guy that wrote the book on the type of game that you're playing, then why wouldn't you want that value? Why wouldn't you want that knowledge, that information? I don't know if it would happen. I don't even know if it would be the best scenario, right? Like, would Budenholzer, like, let's say he does. Let's say it sounds like a good idea. Never really know until you're actually in that situation. Does he go from being the head coach to an assistant and look at it and go, like, hey, I was bossing this guy around a year ago and now here I am. Like, I mean, egos, things like that can be a thing. But I just think that they have a relationship. They have an understanding. Budenholzer really liked to have his assistant coach. I mean, Darvin Ham said so, right? That Budenholzer likes to have his assistant coaches, especially his lead assistant, run the show. that he likes to have them kind of, you know, operate as the head coach more than not. So, Budenholzer took steps back to allow Darvin Ham to flourish. And so maybe he'd be willing to do that. And again, I get the idea of like, you don't want to go like no championship level head coach goes from, being a head coach for a championship contender to like being an assistant. Never say never. One, there have been coaches that have. Two, there's various circumstances around this situation, right? This isn't like your typical like both sides just needed to part ways. And like, there's a lot that's going into this. Some of the stuff I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to reiterate that, right? So I don't think it's like that far-fetched and bizarre. It's just, is that something that Darvin Ham wants? Is it something that Budenholzer really wants? Is it something that, the Lakers organization wants? I don't think it's a bad idea to have like a more experienced head coach on the bench next to Ham. It still could be Ham's show. He could still be the head coach. I think he's done a fine job. I know some people don't feel that way, but I do. I think if you really look at the circumstances, then I don't see how you can argue he hasn't done a great job. I mean, the guy went from a roster that made 0 cents, started 2-10, to leading that team to a reasonable record and dealing with the rust drama and just everything that was going on, to then getting an entirely new team and then getting that team on the same page in a light speed record with the top defense, top offense, and now 3 wins away from being in the conference finals. You don't do that without coaching. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? Would you bring him on? Would you not? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, let me know.